We told you about the offense. We ranked those position groups from least impactful to most impactful. Now we're moving over to the defense. What is the number one position group on the University of Georgia's team on the defense this year? We'll talk about it today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He is Daniel, I am Clint. Together, we are Locked On Bulldogs. Thanks for making us your first listen. We really appreciate y'all so very much. The 199, the loyal third segment listeners, stick all the way to the end, thus being crowned loyal third segment listeners.
That's what they
Athens Steve almost caught the wrath today as he was talking about greatest UGA athletes of all time. Ant-Man could be one of them, but his name is Stetson Bennett. He's the greatest that ever was, two-time national champion. But we're talking defense. We're not talking offense. He was
Anthony Edwards plays both offense and defense, so he does the bill both.
But just real quick.
Oh, we talking basketball in the first segment. Thanks to Game Time, by the way, for bringing us today's episode. We love them. More on. We love you. Moment.
With them. No, we're not talking about basketball, but Ant-Man is the face of the NBA, which it might actually make me start watching NBA basketball.
What a time to be alive, Clint.
It really
What a time to be alive. We'll talk more about that later.
More about that later because we have some things in the works. But let's begin with this. Defense showed out. We talked about all offseason how the defense really let us down in some key moments last year. It wasn't what we were used to in 2022, 2021, elite defenses. And all of a sudden we had a huge drop off last year, mainly because we had a bunch of young bucks running around. Needed some guys that didn't come through. Michael Williams famously did not set the sack record for SEC as I predicted.
Did he not?
No, wasn't even close.
Nah, I didn't sniff it. No,
but that's okay because G-Day brought you and I great warmth in my belly. Just like some liquid that at times we consume. It warmed our souls. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to go from 5 to 1, the fifth best, fourth best, third, all the way up to the best defensive unit on the defensive side.
I'm going to let you kick us off here, Clint, but I think, is it fair to say that this one's a little bit tougher to rank and sort out than the offense? I felt like we had a pretty clear picture on the offensive side. Now, we maybe could go back and forth about a couple things. We dropped offensive line down. The wide receivers impressed us. These types of things. But on the defensive side of the ball, I really feel like it's going to be really tough to sort these out. I'm even curious as to how it's all going to shake out here on the episode today. We were lockstep for the offense. There might be a little bit of disagreement, but we're going to keep our same format. We're going to alternate shots. And so you're going to lead us off with the fifth best, a la the worst. And just to clarify, our 5 position groups on defense are defensive line, edge, linebacker, corner, and safety. We're going to call the star position a safety in this episode. So the defensive backs, the corners would be the outside corners, and the safeties would include 3 players most of the time as Georgia runs out of the nickel quite a bit. So, Clint, I'll let you kick us off here on the defensive side. And who's at the bottom of the barrel?
This is, like you said, I think 5 through 2 could really be in a lot of different orders. For me, we're going to get to number 1, and to number 1, I think is going to be common between us.
Yeah.
But you start talent. Do you go talent? Do you go to experience? Do you go success on the field? It's such an up in the air thing. And so, Daniel, I'll give you the 2 position groups that I'm between for 5th. And that's actually defensive interior line and cornerback. Now, we have high hopes for cornerback. We saw some things at G-Day that brought you and I a smile because
they did.
We're very concerned we're losing a bunch of key guys. Kamari Lassiter, lockdown corner, gone. We have a couple of guys that could be fighting Ellis Robinson in there. So the talent is there. The 5 stars, the 4 stars are there. But I think ultimately for me, because of the seniority on the defensive interior line, I'm going to go corner because it's unproven. Because right now I don't feel confident leaving any single person out on an island unto themselves. Now, stop me if you heard this before. I think this is a common occurrence for UGA offseason, is it not, Daniel? You and I have sat here on this podcast several times and said, hey, famously, DeAndre Baker is not a shutdown corner. Well, it turns out he is a shutdown corner.
That's right.
Hey, we don't know Tyson Campbell, who's going to make the opposite end of the unit complete. But if you look at the cornerback, Dalen Everett, stud. Okay, the talent.
Ooh, okay, we project him to be very good this year. We're very high on him on this podcast. Let's not go Dalen Everett stud right away.
Okay, just in a drill situation, in a 1-on-1, 7-on-7 type situation.
We think he's got the goods. We think he's got the goods. Yeah.
Julian Humphrey, we think also has the goods, but has it translated?
These are our 2 best corners. These are our 2 best corners, and there's no doubt. There's no denying that.
There's no denying. Then after that, like I said, Ellis Robinson probably talent-wise number 3 so far. If all recruiting services are correct, which there is no such thing as Guru Insider. If they were, they would be coaches. So I'm going to go cornerback as our 5th position group because of the inexperience of success on the field. What say you to my analysis?
It's corner, and it's not even close. I don't think for 5th. I like it a lot as putting them there. Now, do I think corner is going to be drastically improved this year? I do, actually, and that includes losing a corner, obviously, and quite a good one in Kamari Lassiter, a guy that we liked a lot. Dalen Everett struggled at times last year, but we've been on record. We don't need to repeat ourselves on the podcast, but if there are new listeners, we believe that Dalen Everett is going to have a big year this year. We think he's good. I think you look at the track record of Kirby Smart coaching but coaching young corners on the field over the course of a season. Now, obviously, Dalen Everett was a sophomore last year, but you look at Kirby Smart's track record that first year, sometimes some bumps and bruises, but what did we see out of the coaching staff? Nothing. He stayed the course, kept him right in there, kept him in the mix. I know Humphrey got rotated in, and I think that was good for us. I think Dalen Everett's going to be good. I think Julian Humphrey's going to be good. I think Ellis Robinson's going to need some time, and it would be awesome if he were a solid number 3 and got some good quality minutes every game, but was not necessarily being relied on all that much. So it would be great if those 2 guys would stay healthy, Clint, but lack of quality depth alone is going to put this unit. We're going to talk about some other units. There's none of them that would terrify me to see an injury at any more than corner, right? Like, this is the lack of quality depth at corner makes you just grab the bucket, right?
We need, by the way, Daniel, we got to get back over on. We're going to make a bucket this year to sell out. We got to sell.
We are going to sell a 5-gallon bucket with our own branding,
with our brand,
with just Daniel and Clint's faces on it. A 5-gallon bucket.
I think you're right. The quality depth is of concern. We're going to talk about 4, 3, 2, 1, but first these. And these are, in fact, Game Time. Game Time is fantastic. The official the official ticket of Locked On Bulldogs. Daniel and I are already making our plans for the fall.
We are. We're texting about it today.
We got a couple of games we have highlighted, and Game Time is where we're going to go. Right now, you can get excited about NBA basketball as well as the playoff is going. Game Time is authorized ticket marketplace of NBA. Makes playoff tickets even faster. Last-minute killer deals, all in prices, views from your seat. Right now, you can get all of that in an easy-to-use app that is, in fact, the lowest ticket price. Daniel and I have checked this out. We've tried the algorithm. It comes up true. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, as well as toggling this feature of all-in pricing allows total upfront price, no surprise fees at checkout, and we know we love that. Download Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Locked On College, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I started off with the cornerback position, Daniel. Where we're going to go for 4.
Well, I mean, tipping my hand here, but it ain't going to be defensive line. I'll tell you that. Not in my book, and I get to pick number 4, and so I didn't even consider defensive line in here at 4.
I got to give quickly a little defense. We were glad to get back some returning players. I think that they got some advice that said, "Hey, you need some more time."
Sure, they did. And we're still glad to have them back.
I'm happy. I'm thrilled
to have them back.
Yes.
We'll talk about defensive line when the time comes, Clint. But right now we're going to talk about the safeties because I'm going safety at 4. Now, this is hard. Weird. It's hard. Sometimes 2 things can be true at the same time, Clint, and that is A, we have no business being successful podcast hosts. B, we have a successful podcast. 2 things can be true at the same time. These are both true facts of life. Yes. They don't have to contradict each other.
No.
Point A is that the best player on Georgia's defense by a lot, not the highest draft pick on Georgia's defense, right? We'll get to him in a moment. But the best player right now on Georgia's defense is a safety. His name's Malachi Starks, and he plays the safety position. And yet, I've got safety as the 4th out of 5 rated position groups on Georgia's team. So, and it obviously has to do with what I'm looking at opposite of Malachi Starks. And I got 2 other positions to fill, Clint, and I got a lot of questions, and I don't have a lot of answers. So let's talk about some of the things we think we maybe know. We think we know that Jonel Aguero is going to lock down that star position. We loved what we saw from him in G-Day, but we need to see it in an SEC game. He's about to trot out there versus Clemson in week 1, Clint, in the Benz.
We've seen him play SEC football, and when he did,
it ain't been good. No.
The bucket was necessary.
Yeah. So if Jonel Aguero's out there, that's great. We talked about first-year corners and Kirby sticking with him. Obviously, Jonel, true freshman last year. You would understand it if he took a big leap forward, and by all accounts, he has done that, and by all accounts, he looks great in practice. We loved what we saw at G-Day. Very high on him coming out of there. Now, that doesn't mean that makes me feel sunshine and rainbows, but that's, I would say, Clint, the better of the 2 spots that we have to fill, because you look at that other safety spot.
You're correct. We just said huge question mark with Aguero.
Huge question mark.
And yet that makes me feel a lot more confident.
The other one's worse, because in the other safety spot over there, it's not that you don't have a bevy of names that you could go with, okay? Thunder Dan Jackson, Jake Pope, true freshman KJ Bolden, David Daniel, like Kyron Jones could slide back there and play safety. There's a lot of names.
Don't for a second think that Kyron Jones doesn't wind up being the starting safety by the year's end opposite Malachi Starks, because he has a chance to do so. I'm not calling the shot, but he has a chance to do so.
All those guys, I think, have a chance to do so. I mean, you've got a lot of different skill. You've got a lot of different people represented there, right? You've got true freshman, raw, uber talented, uber athletic, has no idea what he's going to be doing out there.
No, zero clue.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got Dan Jackson.
Knows what he's doing.
The highest floor possible.
Yes.
And the ceiling is the floor. Like it's literally is just one player. He is the same player. And there's something to be said for that. There's pros and cons to all these guys. Some of them have more length. Some of them have more speed. Some of them have more size and physicality. It's the only thing that makes you feel good. And the only reason that safety doesn't find itself at number 5 on my list, Clint, is because you've got an absolute stone cold dude back there who can fix a lot of your problems. And so, yeah, safety is a position that it's not like I'm nervous, grab a bucket about it. I'm not nervous about any of these positions, to be fair. And that's wild given what I saw from this defense last year, which was filth. But I am so curious as to how the safety position is going to play out. And I can't rank them any higher than this until I see something. Clint, what do you got? What do you think?
Look, for me, the talent of the best player on the field, Malachi Starks, makes me want to rank them higher. But as I hear you talk about it, Daniel, I think you may have talked me into understanding that defensive line is not the fourth. And when I say defensive line, we're talking about safeties. I think safety position is going to be a constant mix and match until we find the right recipe.
Sure.
And I think in different situations and different sub packages, we're going to see a lot of guys getting run. Dan Jackson is going to be a dude who knows his assignment on lockdown. Can he get to the assignment in time to make a play? That's going to be the question. Will he be asked to do so? I don't know. He's on the field, so yes.
Yeah, if he's on the field, he will be asked to do so. And spoiler alert, dog fans, he's going to be on the field this season. Like,
yes. Get used to it.
Yeah. I mean, he may not play the whole game. All right. You've got 3 now, Clint. Now are we going to go to defensive line?
See, now as I hear you talk, about floor and ceiling and the safety position, if we're talking stone cold dudes,
We've got defensive line, we've got edge, we've got linebacker left.
And truth be told, Daniel, edge made me yearn last year from the lack of production out of edge. Now I'm thinking clearly, defensive line was fine. They were fine. We got a bunch of guys coming back. They're fine. And we have Christian Miller. We have Jarrett. We have dudes who are in the pipeline. We have Xavier McLeod coming in transfer portal, big old Haas. Okay. That's shoring some stuff up. So I think trenches were going to be fine. And fine to me is B+, A- work. The ceiling is probably right there as well. Okay. So I'm going to switch it up. I think I'm going to go edge with number 3.
Okay.
And the reason why
defensive line just gets bumped up the ladder, just keeps getting promoted.
It ain't going to be number 1. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's edge to me.
Yeah.
Because Chaz Chambliss, look, you know how to do a couple of things well, but we need you to take that step forward. Michael Williams hasn't accelerated. I see draft mocks of him going to the top 5, and I'm like, okay, in a combine, you're right. I need to see the production on the field. What is going on? Now, again, we got Wilson on the edge as well. Jalen Walker, we've seen him come in sub packages, but there hasn't been dude who's just stayed out there on the edge. We got a change of position in Michael that gives me some hope, but I'm just going to go edge number 3, Daniel. Do you like them being number 3?
I actually do, and it's a similar logic. This is a more talented position group than safety, but it's Michael Williams and company. That's the edge position. And Michael Williams is probably going to be drafted higher than Malachi Starks, but make no mistake, based on what I've seen, they are not even similar football players.
Nope.
You could take that as a disrespect to Michael Williams all you want. Based on what I've seen so far, they're not the same.
That's
now,
the key.
Hopes are very high for Michael this year. And I mean, listen, I watched a guy named Lorenzo Carter just scuffle around for 3 years. I mean, just kick rocks for 3 years. And then he came out and played himself right into a fantastic senior season, NFL draft pick, and a very successful NFL career. This is ongoing. So it's not like I don't think that talent level is there. Michael Williams, and I mean, you saw him at G-Day, Clint. He doesn't look normal. You understand?
He's different than the rest of them. Mary Smith walks down dog walk, and you're like, whoa, dude.
Same feeling for Michael, and it's not the get off like on the pass rush. It wasn't what I saw against the offensive tackles, even though I thought he looked good against the offensive tackles. He threw that back to the ground, Clint. And
play a little chip right here. Little chip right here.
Boy, I saw some things. You mentioned Chaz. I think Gabe Harris is kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
In the edge room. And it's not fair. We're gonna put him in both groups because we're gonna talk about him again. But if you don't talk about Jalen Walker when you talk about the edge, I think you're kind of fooling yourself because that's where he lines up a decent amount of the time. And so he's an inside backer for sure. And we're going to talk about him again when we talk about the depth of the inside linebackers. But he's also an edge defender, and that elevates this unit. I like edge here. That's where I have him ranked as well.
All right.
And so we got 2 left, and their defensive line linebackers, we'll talk about them and see which one is number 1 right after this.
All right, game off. We got to pause here, talk about Monopoly Go. By the way, huge
People love the ad reads.
People love the ad reads coming in for Monopoly Go.
The ad reads.
I know what you're saying. 13-year-old girls love Monopoly Go, and that's true. They are all about it. It gets them interactive with their friends. They could trash talk their friends. Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends, time tournaments where you work together, build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much more to get. Unique stickers, cool playing pieces, hilarious emojis for taunting friends. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, go download it now for free at Google Play or the App Store. Game on. It is it's your choice, Daniel. We have 2 position groups left. Defensive line, inside linebackers are what remains for this defensive unit as we rank them. Where do you want to go for number 2?
I can see the argument to be made actually for both of these. And I'm going to say, even though I think when you lead off next and talk about the linebackers, I think you're going to say that there's a big gap between 1 and 2. I actually don't think there is a big gap. I actually think the defensive line and the linebackers are kind of neck and neck for which is going to be the best position group.
Which we can quibble about 1 and 2, but just right there, the fact that might be the case should give you, dog fan, insane confidence.
The strength is up the middle. The weakness is over the top. The strength is up the middle. Like, this is your Georgia Bulldogs football.
Where have we heard that before, Daniel?
Listen, it's a recipe we have seen play out well for us.
Yep.
And then we watched last year also. So, these things could go either way. Let's talk about the defensive line. I got them at 2. But if you want to talk about top end elite talent, yes, the defensive line is at 2. If you want to talk about great quality depth, the defensive line is head and shoulders the best position group on this roster.
Too deep.
On this roster, maybe with the exception of wide receiver. But like, the defensive line is crazy deep. Obviously, Warren Brinson comes back. Nazir Stackhouse comes back. And Tyron Ingram Dawkins comes back. He was never really a threat to leave. But those 3 guys come back. Kristen Miller transferred. So you hate to see him go, but you just wish him the best.
Wait, hold up, Daniel. Wait.
Oh, did he come back? No, he came. So he came back after he transferred. Jordan Hall is back. Jamal Jarrett is back. And then you bring in guys like Xavier McLeod. You bring in true freshmen like Jonah Ajonye. Like,
that dude's going to play.
Oh, he's going to play.
He's going to play.
Oh, he's going to open. Do you remember Michael Williams' freshman year? He's going to open some eyes when he plays. So I just listed 9 dudes, and for what is essentially 3 spots.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about a 3 deep at Georgia on the defensive front. These guys are going to be fresh the whole game, which is going to make them play even better.
Yep.
I don't even know who the best player on this unit is.
See, this is what was confusing why I wanted to rank them so low, because I couldn't answer that either. And that gave me pause. But keep going.
But then you say, who's the worst player on this unit?
Great
And
counterpoint.
you look at how good they are, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my, that is a scary situation. I think Warren Brinson is still the best player on the defensive line, but I think there's a reasonable chance that either Kristen Miller or Jordan Hall could surpass him and
Yes.
Nazir Stackhouse this
Yes.
year and assert themselves as the preeminent player on the defensive front. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of guys on here. I mean, you could throw Jamal Jarrett in there too. I think he could have a big year and really pop this year. So there's so many guys on this defensive front. And to me, it's not the quality of the player. It's the quality of the situation that they're going to be put in, well rested and rotating in and constantly fresh and always getting a series off after they have a long series. That's going to make really good players look like great players on the field, especially in the fourth quarter when it matters. And so even though Georgia might not have a superstar on the defensive line, and they might, but they might not have a superstar on the defensive line, you could be talking about 6-7 guys that legitimately are playing like great football players.
Yeah.
All season long. And to me, that's why I think you got to at least consider them as the number one strength of this defense. I got them at number 2, but I think this is a very strong position group.
I think you use sound logic and wisdom, but let me just
let's get to the linebackers.
It's the linebackers, and the reason, you know, when you're like shopping for cars and you just fall in love with a car, and you're like, this is the car, this is my car, I love it, and I'm looking at it, and I just and the entire time it's a good car, it's a great car, but you kind of emotionally attach to it.
But it's your car now.
It's my yeah. And then all of a sudden, you look over and somebody says, but have you seen this car? And you're like, no, I only have eyes for this. That's what it's been like for me with CJ Allen. And now all of a sudden, as I'm getting reports, as I'm hearing word more and more of Mr. Mondon come in here.
Oh yeah.
Smile Mondon might just have an abject rocket booster season coming for him at the inside linebacker group.
Yes.
These two guys are first round talents at inside linebacker.
Yes.
Oh, and let's keep going, because as you mentioned, Jalen Walker is also talent wise that dude. He's a Channing Tindall type inside linebacker. That's who he is.
Missile.
Okay, he's a missile. CJ Allen is more of a steady, true tackling. Smile Monton's a guy that's just an eraser all over the field. Fast, athletic, agile. I haven't even mentioned the young guys that we haven't even seen yet get into game time action, but whose talent and reports from practice as well as G-Day. Raylan Wilson, did he open some eyes at all, Daniel, for you? Because he did for me.
I'll tell you this. CJ Allen ain't the reason that Pops transferred.
No.
Raylan Wilson is the reason that Pops transferred. Okay? So that's all I think you should need to know. And so
right now on the depth chart, he's not listed as the starter.
He's third on the depth chart right now. And but he gonna play, Clint, a lot this year.
We have bona fide dudes at the inside linebacker position. Another year, more weight, more strength, more knowledge. CJ Allen holding him back last year was missed reads and missed assignments. Smile Mondon wasn't healthy the whole time. Now they're healthy. Now they're a year more in the system, more weights, more sprint, more conditioning. And these two guys are monsters with monsters behind them. The inside linebacker group gives me the confidence to say this defense will be elite this year because of this group, because Kirby Smart's system, you got to have two dudes that can just get off blocks, doesn't matter assignment, doesn't matter if offense made a great call, we were in a bad situation, blitz up the middle, all of a sudden outside run or a little screen game. You have to make up for those times on defense, and these guys are those erasers. For me, inside linebacker is a clear number one, and it makes me thrilled.
You love to see it. You love to see it. Troy Bowles, special teams monster, also plays inside linebacker. And guys, Chris Cole, just pencil the name down, write it down, because the next car Clint's going to be looking at and forgetting about his current CJ Allen car, his name's Chris Cole. So if you want to get ahead of it, you go ahead and look there. He's Clint. I'm Daniel. This is the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. That is the defensive position group rankings. We will be back next week. We got a lot that we're going to try to cover. We might have some guests on. We're going to have some guests. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We need a post-production meeting, but we will talk to you and see you guys then. See ya.